Welcome to the dark side of the morgue. This is Adam Stoner's collection of Gothic historical artifacts. We have things like taxidermied animals, human remains, and more. We like to preface that we didn't kill any of the animals or people back here. In fact, we like to treat them with the utmost respect. We ask that all who enter do the exact same. We also ask that you bring all of your respect to the final room on the tour, that's the Salt Room. It's where we keep all of our haunted items. Final tour of the dark side of the morgue, and we want to thank everyone who came to take a tour while it was still open. The first room that we have is the Asylum Room. Down here is a receipt from an asylum of female orphans in Europe. It's dated 1828. Above that, we have the admission paperwork for Gertrude Ingalls. It's dated April 18th, 1933. In it, it details the exact reason that her husband decided to admit her. Initially, she just had a lot of bouts of paranoia. She thought people were trying to poison her, people were following her, she wouldn't eat. Ultimately, what brought him to the decision to admit her was 5 hours prior to the paperwork being filed. She had slit her wrist and her throat, woken him up, and said she was ready to go to her maker. Throughout here, we have different relics from asylums as well, such as the doorknob and the key. And then down here, we have the silverware. So if you look closely, the silverware is all marked with the different roles that people played in within the asylum. So nurse, doctor, patient. The reason that they did this is similar to reasoning that they do the same kinds of things in prisons today. If someone, a spoon goes missing and then someone's missing an eye later, they kind of know where to look for that. In the back here, we have a real straight jacket, which was worn by a patient in a real asylum in Edison, New Jersey. And it has blood stains on it as well. And behind her, we have a window from the Norwich State Hospital, which is in Connecticut. It ran from 1904 until its closure in 1996. Due to all of the deaths that occurred there, they believe that it created a very fertile spirit hunting ground, and ghost hunters filmed their 10th episode of their 6th season. The next room that we have is the church room. I'll have you go ahead and sanitize your hands and then write your name in our guest book. So throughout the room, we have 3 different skeletons. First one being up on the hearse. The one here in the casket. And then the one in the case behind you. So the skeleton in the case behind you is Adam's first skeleton. It was used in rituals. We named it Bony Tony after one of our artists, Anthony Hampton, who we also call Bony Tony. However, we later found out that this Tony is actually a female, so we've now redubbed her Tony with an I. So around over here, we have a bunch of different casket hardware. And inside, in the middle of this casket hardware, we have Adam's first skull. He got it at a convention. It was being used on a vendor's table as a candy dish. Once we got him, we named him Philip as our vow to never fill up his head with candy again. To the right of that, we have the main piece of casket hardware that we like to point out. It is a sad hour clock. So back in the day, this was far more common. However, they do still do this in some other countries. When someone passed away in the home, they would stop all of the clocks in the home to the time of this person's death. They did it for a couple of reasons. 1, it was more practical, made it easier for documentation. And 2, on the more spiritual side, they believed that it created a new world without time, which allowed the spirit to pass on freely. If they didn't stop all of the clocks within the home at the time of this person's death, they believed that the spirit would become trapped there and haunt the living. With that being such a common practice, these became more popular. They would set the clock to the time of this person's death. It would get attached to their casket and buried with them. Below that is a mourning light. These were used when someone lost a loved one. It puts off a soft, warm glow and was intended to give them a sense of warmth and company in their time of mourning. So over here we have a funeral fan. Although they were called funeral fans, they were not originally intended to be used for funerals at all. Originally they were used in movie theaters. So what they would do is they would set these up behind a block of ice. It would blow the cool air into the auditorium during the movie to keep the moviegoers cool. and the lights on either side put off enough glow that moviegoers could see and come and go during the movie without disrupting those that were actually watching it, similar to the LED strips that we have in movie theaters now. Funeral homes got their hands on it and found a whole new purpose for them. They put them at the head of caskets, similar to how we have this one. It would blow flies off the body during a funeral, and the warm glow would make the body appear less dead. So these fans were originally only produced between 1905 until 1920, so for just 15 years, because when the original company learned that this is now what the fans were being used for, they were mortified and halted production permanently. One night we did capture this fan moving entirely on its own with this camera right here, and we'll show you this footage right now.
This happens quick. This thing is incredibly moved to the left, looks like about an inch or so. The thing weighs like 80 pounds. But as I kept watching the video, I noticed that the light shook, as indicated here. As if something was toying with it. But it wasn't until I edited this actual video that I noticed it moves again. I don't think we would notice it moving even if we were in the room with it. I've gotten up on stage trying to debunk this, trying to move it. There is no explanation I can have to have it move so swiftly on stage like that. Here's where it was when the video first started, and that's where it ended up at the end of the video.
So the final thing we have in this room is our 1880s horse-drawn hearse. It was featured on season 16, episode 14 of American Pickers. They found it at House on the Rock in Wisconsin. This hearse in particular was used in a cooler climate, and we know this because of the tracks on the bottom of it. Ones that were used in more moderate places, such as here, where you might have snow sometimes and then not so much other times, they could be traded out between tracks and wheels. This one unfortunately does not have that ability, so anytime we move it, it's very difficult. So the next room that we have is our circus room. The first thing that we have in the circus room is this here. Everything on this mannequin other than the cut and the belt were worn by the character Jax Teller in the show Sons of Anarchy. Here we have a photo of General Tom Thumb and his family. He would use these when he performed as a sideshow performer. A lot of people assumed that all sideshow performers were exploited. A lot of them unfortunately were, but he was noted as saying that he actually really enjoyed what he did, and he did really well for himself. He was essentially the world's first celebrity. He would perform for royals. He, in today's dollars, made the equivalent of about $200,000 a year. We like to point out this animal here. This is Adam's favorite in his collection. It is a white wolf named Ghost. Here we have our 16-foot Nile crocodile. We've had it on exhibit in the shop for quite a while, but most people don't realize that it, as far as we can tell from our research, is the world's largest Nile crocodile on exhibit. Usually they only grow to be about 12 to 14 feet long. Here we have our Alaskan brown bear. It won the 1996 and 1997 world record for best taxidermy. So the next room that we have is the Seance Room. In the case here we have a bunch of different chiromancy books. Most of them date from the 1800s into the very, very early 1900s. However, the one we have on display here in the middle, it is from 1665 and it is in French. That is, for reference, it's about 28 years before the Salem witchcraft trials. So here in the case, we have an old pumpkin mold. They were invented in the late 1930s in Madison, Ohio. Essentially what they would do is it's hollow on the backside, so they would take a premature pumpkin, put it in there, tie it up real tight, and then as it grew, it would take on the face of this mold here, which you can see in the newspaper clipping. Here in the case, we have our collection of skulls. If you look at the one in the middle, that one is nearly 1,000 years old. His name is Ambrose. We have the one down here in the corner. His name is Peru because we're super clever and he's a Peruvian skull. And then up here on the top, this is Adam's favorite skull. We don't really know much about him, but he's very Pirates of the Caribbean, so we like to point him out anyway. So the next thing that we have is here in the case. This is a Mendi revenge doll from Papua New Guinea. So it's sort of like a voodoo doll, but not really. What they would do is when someone was killed wrongfully, whether that be through war or murder, something like that, they would make these dolls to the likeness of the person that was killed using natural resources like mud and leaves and shells. They would then go try to avenge this person's death. Once they successfully did so, they would break the doll apart, setting the spirit free. The fact that this one is still intact suggests that the spirit is still inside, and that's why we've placed it in a ring of salt. Over here, we have a 3-year-old human heart, which went under the plastination process, which Gunther von Higgins invented in the late 1970s. So basically that is...
Wait.
What?
Did you just fucking open that up?
No.
No, you're fucking with me, right? No. I was standing right here filming you.
Did you bump it?
No, I didn't touch it at all. There's no fucking way.
I didn't bump it either.
Like,
Hold on.
I know for sure I didn't touch it because I'm trying not even to breathe, dude.
Ooh, that actually sticks really well. Hold on, let me like shoot.
Is there even like a...
Yeah, you can pull.
Here, give me your flashlight. I can't see. Yeah, dude, like... I mean, even if I... That does not fucking move, dude. Okay, what in the fuck?
Weird shit happens back here.
Has that ever happened before?
I don't think so. Not that I know of, at least. I've never found it.
I don't think you're freaking out enough. I think that's a... Well, we have that camera up there. Let's chill.
Okay, so this was actually us. We pulled this on a lot of people during the tour. This actually happened to us at one point. Adam was standing where I'm standing. He was talking to myself and Jamie, who were over there at the time. He leaned on it, which we didn't know then, and the door opened up. And we went to check the cameras, just like we did just now, and we noticed that little detail there. And so we went back, we tried it again, and realized that it will happen almost every single time if you push on it just right. So we use this as a really good gateway to talk about seances, since this is the Seance Room. So a lot of the time back in the day, they would, with these seances, have rigged things just like this. They would ask for a sign dramatically or something and lean on something, push a button, whatever. A door would open, people would shell out their money and come back and see them again. They would then pack up their things, travel a few hours in either direction, do it all over again, because without phones and internet access at the time, it was really easy to just keep pulling these tricks on people. Some famous girls that did this were the Bang Sisters from Chicago. They later said that they were pulling tricks on people, and then they later tried to recant those statements as well, but by that point the damage was already done. At this time, we would normally show a video introducing the Salt Room and the things that are in it and the different experiences that we've had with them here. The Salt Room will actually remain open, and if you would like to come and visit the Salt Room at any time, you can contact us to find out more information on that. So after leaving the Salt Room, these are a couple of things that we would have people do. First thing that we would do is we would take a coin and give an offering to the caretaker. We would then allow tour goers to have the opportunity to let go of their fears. We repurposed this old funeral card holder for an old voodoo fear ritual. We would have them write down a fear on a piece of paper down here. They would then fold their paper in half and place the fear in here. That fear was then supposed to leave them. If they were brave enough, they could take one, but then that fear would become their own. At the end of this tour, we will actually be burning these to set the fears completely free. For the last part of the tour, we have our murderabilia section. The first one that we have here was originally featured in our oddity shop. His name is Philip Jablonski. He killed 7 women between the states of California and Utah. He was later arrested in Kansas, and he has since died in his cell a few years ago. Next to it, we have some artwork done by Hayden Clark, pictured above. He was known as the cross-dressing cannibal. He was known as this because he was known to sometimes show up to a scene dressed as himself and leave dressed as a woman. He also drank the blood of his female victims because he thought it made him more of a woman. Some people allude to his childhood as to maybe part of why he turned out the way that he did. Sometimes when he was younger, his alcoholic mother would dress him up in girls' clothing when she was drunk and refer to him as Kristen. His brother also killed a woman and ate some of her body parts as well. Next to that, we have a handwritten letter from Eileen Warnos. We have typed it up next to it so that you can read it. We also have a picture of her to the right of it, along with her victims listed below. Above, we have Jeffrey Dahmer and a letter written by him. It's mostly a simple exchange between himself and a fan from Sweden, but he does do his famous sign-off of "Your friend Jeff," which is pretty cool. And then we have a picture of him along with his victims as well. Thank you to everyone who came and took a tour with me over the last year. It was my pleasure to be your guide on the dark side of the morgue.
Hey everyone, I want to say thank you very much for taking the tour the last year. It was awesome to have you guys all come for the experience. I've been collecting my entire life and I'll continue to collect. So expect something like this to happen in the future. This has been something that I've been really proud of, and I want to say thank you very much to Caylee for doing the tour. It was awesome to have her love this place as much as I, probably even more. So I want to say thank you guys again, and until next time. Alright, what the fuck?